Good morning, everybody. Happy Hump Day. We are here with you as every day we are to go through the GenAI news and let you know whether it is essential, important, or optional for you to tune into. We have a special guest here today. He's been on before. Chris Brock, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
Always has great perspectives, is out in the space talking to folks about generative AI all the time. And we have Luda and Ankaja. We may be joined by a few others. Paul and John are out at the Venture Beat conference in San Francisco, so it's 4:30 in the morning for them. So if they join, huge kudos. So here we go. We're going to go through several pieces as we always do. We've got 6 today. We're going to talk about Meta coming out with some research about their small model to run on device. We're seeing a lot of those as we've talked about recently. We've got MIT research. They've created a GenSQL database. And then, we've been talking about it. All the research we look at seems to come out of China. And now we have some analysis on the actual patents that have been filed. And spoiler alert, China's way ahead of everybody else in patents filing. So let's dive right in. I will bring Ankaja's screen to the stage. And hello, Paul. I was just saying that you were getting up at 4:30 a.m. out in San Francisco for this, and we weren't sure if you would make it, but thanks for joining.
I've got my time zone all screwed up, just so you know. So I'm here now, though.
I'm sure it's a short trip for you, right? So why adjust? All right, here we go. Ankash.
Thanks, David. So the first one that we have for today comes from FT, and it talks about how generative AI has turned a spotlight on contract management.
Yeah, and Paul, I know we've talked to a few people that are using GenAI for this, so I assigned you to this one first.
Yeah, I actually put this as essential. I mean, we know one large company that saved over $4 million because they're doing this, because they have 7,000 contracts, huge companies here. 3 other companies have told me that this is their really important one, that they have, well, huge companies. And the other one I saw was a very large company that they were going through all their existing SaaS contracts, analyzing them for understanding what the data rights were around those, particularly about the contracts I have today. Do my contracted SaaS vendor, are they allowed to use my data for my employees to train their models? And when they put a model in their product here, does a contract even mention liability? And they've screwed that up here. So that to me is a very important use case, particularly for larger companies, that people need to be wrestling more with. And we're seeing on both sides, both the kind of CIOs of the buying organization asking us, what should I demand of my software vendors I'm signing contracts for? And on the sell side, the vendors are asking us, oh my gosh, I'm getting a lot more requests like this. Where should I give in and not give in here? So it's an important discussion area. So for that long-winded answer, David, I rated it essential.
All right, Chris, what do you think?
For me, this sort of hits home. My wife, she's actually a contracting officer for the Department of Energy. So, she's always been in that contract management space. I was just also at the Wright Pat Institute and met all the directorates of the Air Force. And I see the amount of work they're doing in contracts at that level. They're not really introducing any technology quite yet, but I do feel that generative AI is at that spot where that's going to be not only disrupted, but introduced to a new technology. They're usually a little slower to move, but I see the generative AI helping out with contracts and management is a perfect placement for generative AI to really make an impact. And it's just who's going to adopt it, who's going to be able to ensure that, there's still a person on the end reading it and stamping it and putting it out as a work product. But I'm really thinking that this generative AI movement in contract management is going to be a big deal.
So this is interesting. So is your wife making contingency plans, or is she embracing the tool and trying to bring it into the workplace? What's happening there?
So she is like on an AI team liaison for her department, but she's also in the government. So they move like glaciers, so they're not moving too quickly on any of this. So I think she's safe. But 20 years from now, I don't know how some of these billion-dollar contracts are not going to be managed with generative AI. And if you have frameworks like the FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulations, all of that is starting to be played around with in the space, but I haven't seen anything totally be implemented on my end. And some stuff she obviously doesn't share with me, but I think it's going to make a big impact, and she's being mindful of it.
I agree with Paul. It's essential. I had the privilege of being VP of purchasing in one of the smaller units of GE, businesses of GE. And when I took the job, I had no clue about contracts. And I was given this huge contract, right, to read at my first day. So I was like all shaking. So at that time, there really no contract management software per se, but it's a tremendous big area of liability for companies, because there are all kinds of obligations that you miss, those milestones that are buried in the contract. You are, liable for a suit. It can be lots and lots of money. So at that time, we put like tools in Excel. What are the milestones? What are the things? And in people's calendars to mind those milestones. So absolutely, this is a huge area that can bring a lot of negative financial impact or positive financial impact if you work at it well. And now it's the first time, really, when you can do it with generative AI in a slightly better, in a greatly better way, rather, than before. So totally essential for me.
All right, essential across the board. We are starting off with a bang after yesterday. I think we had 5 optional and 1 important. different day here. All right, Ankaj, what do we have next?
Okay, the next one comes from NVIDIA and Wabi. So Wabi is working with NVIDIA to get generative AI for fully driverless autonomous trucking.
All right, some of the language in this one confused me a little bit. It made me feel like whoever wrote it doesn't really know the space very well, but definitely was interesting. What did you think about this, Luda?
It's certainly interesting. I would probably, if they introduce it early next year, if I see this truck, I'll pull over and stop to let it pass. I'm a little leery. This article doesn't mention there's still quite a bit of technical challenges. Like my Tesla brakes when it sees a bridge sometimes when there is big shadow. And it scares everybody in the car because it's so sudden and so violent. So how are they going to overcome all this sun glare, all of those challenges that still exist? The article doesn't address it. So I would put it as optional at the moment. Great effort. It's on the edge, meaning it's inside the truck, and they're going to put the NVIDIA chips in there. Wonderful. I applaud the effort, but I have a question mark. So optional for me.
We've been working on this problem for how long? And we just, earlier this week, I think it was Waymo finally got the green light to go full force with their fleet of taxis in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And already the little anecdotes are rolling in about it doing weird things. And one of them got pulled over the other day for crossing lanes or something like that. So it's just it's been a tough nut to crack here. What do you think about this, Adam? Welcome.
Yeah. Good morning. Good evening. I haven't read through the article. I think it's probably optional though, and it's probably a trend we'll see more of. Certainly, maybe it's something to flag as a trend, but it's interesting to see NVIDIA. I wasn't aware that they were getting into the autonomous driving race per se. Pardon the pun, but yeah, it's interesting but optional news.
One just footnote, David, on this. I'm here in San Francisco here. You see dozens of Waymo cars every single day. John and I walked to the, it doesn't matter the name of the conference. It was about a mile. I probably saw 15 of them. It really is a glimpse, Chris, into the future where you're seeing, and half of them are empty and half of them actually taking a passenger around. But they've got all this spinning around here, but it's definitely a glimpse of the physical glimpse into the future.
All right, I think you need to get in one, Paul, before you leave, and give us a report when you get back.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'll do one. I'll take a little video and I'll send it back to you guys. Do a little.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we'll go optional on this one, and we'll go to the next one.
The next one is a news about how China-based inventors are filing most numbers of GenAI patents.
Yeah, we've been looking at research, as I said earlier. We pull out one or two a day, or Ankash pulls one out for us, and it always seems to be coming from China, and now it's kind of confirmation from the numbers that they are just way ahead in what they are filing for patents and for research papers. What do you think about this one? We'll hand it off to you, Chris.
So for this one, I found it to be really rich in research information around patents. Like, it was not surprising that China has taken a big lead on this, on filing patents. For me, I think it's tough to protect patents in certain cases. So I don't know if they're just building patents around features that are going to be rolled out in OpenAI. So I don't know how many are like game changers. But there was a list under the key findings of the top companies. And you can really see that the top players in China, I believe there was an insurance company, Tencent was there. Also, you have like Alphabet and Meta on the lower end. And those are the ones that would be really interesting to see what they're doing, what they're investing their money in, their research into patents on. It is concerning to see such a dominance in other places. But that's definitely the world we're in. So I'd say this is essential to just really pay attention to where the technology is going to be coming from and what does that mean in the future. Because some of this, if you go back into like the federal world, they want to know everything from the chip, where it was developed all the way end to end. And it's going to be very interesting to see, how these things get built, what security protocols come around some of this technology that comes out of the future. But it's something to definitely be mindful of.
Yeah, I mean, I think speaks to, this, we're in this kind of nationalistic world in general right now, and definitely when it comes to generative AI. And in some ways, it makes you reflect on, is that going to be really the best thing for the technology? I understand all the concerns and the issues, but there's just so much talent in China, and it's isolated.
I'm hearing a lot of background noise. Is that me or someone in a rocket?
I'm not sure. It's not. We'll try to mute people and see who it is. Oh, it's Luda. Luda, you got background noise.
Oh,
Luda's in a Waymo.
I'm sorry. No, it's not me. I'm muted.
And now it's gone. It's gone. You're good now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but these patents, it doesn't say whether it's granted or where they are. If they're just filed, they might not go through, right? But it is concerning. I certainly agree with Chris, because what can happen, I mean, imagine if somebody says, I have a patent in the core of the mechanism of LLM, right? And then they sue a company, and you have to sort it all out, and it can be very difficult. So it's a very concerning trend, and we should certainly, my belief is software is not really patentable, right? So when we invest in software companies, we look at differentiation, look at their mechanisms, but we kind of say, okay, it's probably not patentable. And I think that's an approach that in people's heads about GenAI, and we should change it, because if it is patentable, we should go for it. Absolutely go for it.
Yeah, a couple of just interesting stats that to call out. So the number one filer is Tencent with 2,000 plus filings. The next closest U.S. company is IBM with 601. So, and in between, there's three other companies: Ping An, Baidu, Chinese Academy of Sciences, a company, but a research institution. And just one other note, that the patents have been dominated by image and video patents. So out of the 54,000 that they looked at, 18,000, so more than a third of them were around image and video. and then speech and music second, and then protein generation was actually relatively low compared
I
to
didn't read this article. Is this from the U.S. Patent Office or all patent offices around the world?
It's all, I think, it's legal, right?
Yeah,
No,
it's global.
it's global.
I'd love to see someone, a patent lawyer, understand the quality, not the quantity here. I'm really skeptical of the numbers, but I've been wrong on lots of the different issues.
Yeah,
I mean, the Chinese, but the problem is number of patents filed is a very easy to understand goalpost, Chris. So if I have 10,000 engineers in China and say, file patents, and scream, I don't care what the quality is, just get them filed. That's different than having really good ones out there, particularly for more demanding offices like U.S. Patent Office.
yeah. Well, we didn't rate this. Did we go optional?
No, the suggestion was essential.
On this one, I don't think we even established what the rating was. What did you think, Chris?
So I think it's an important trend to understand that people are filing patents. I thought it was like I think everything is essential when it comes to AI. So I'm biased, you know. I could go optional only if you're finding that this is an important thing to look into. I think it's very important that we understand as a people and as a nation here in the United States or whatever country you're from, like that the future is going to be AI driven. And it definitely looks like China sees that. But I definitely don't understand what these patents will mean, going to Paul's point. So I'm definitely on the fence. I'll let Luda, Paul, or Adam call this one.
I would put important, David, because I think it's a message to our audience. If they believe they invented something, even in their space vertical, that it might be worth pulling a patent to.
Yeah, and I just think it's interesting to see some of the trends, right, in terms of the image video patents, etc. I was important too, and it's very short, and it's just interesting. Sometimes we need to flag things that are just interesting and may not affect the AI leaders day to day. So let's put this one as important. What do we have next?
The next one comes from MIT, and MIT researchers are now using generative AI for databases. So you can analyze complex tabular data now with generative AI through text instructions.
Yes, they're calling it Gen SQL. What do you think about this one, Luda?
I rated it important. It might be worth essential. This is one of the techniques. It's still research, right? I don't think this is out there, but it is the step into the speed and accuracy, major league. Because if you have the data well put together in a database, you can use a GenAI, and they add probability visibility, so you know what's happening and which data it's using. This, and it's 5-6 times faster than the normal GenAI methods. It's very, for me, this is almost like a breakthrough. And I was thinking, why didn't I think about it? It's really good for me. So I would rate it important, if not.
Yeah, and it's kind of crossing over, right? I mean, ChatGPT and there's other tools that have the kind of data analysis. They are spotty, I find, although I know, Adam, you use it a lot to a lot of success. But this is a tool that will kind of move GenAI onto structured data, right? And enable you to do some interesting analysis by asking natural language questions. And I mean, it seems really cool. I wish it was already in existence, but it sounds like they're still working out the kinks here. What do you think about this? Did you take a look at this one, Adam?
Yeah, I took a quick look. I'm not clear really what this is going to do that you couldn't get out of effectively pointing an LLM at a database of information. So if someone can help me understand that, maybe I could see why it's important. But basically, by embedding it into it, there might be benefits. I'm not quite clear what those are, and it was still in research, so I had it as optional. I understand what you're saying, Luda, about it being a really powerful concept, and it could do some really amazing things. But can it do things that an LLM couldn't do pointed at a database anyway of SQL information? I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, so I agree with you that this is a question. My assumption, even though the article doesn't go into it, my assumption is that Gen SQL, it's a much tighter coupling between an LLM and the database. And in David, it can use unstructured data after you work another step, right? And so that's the answer, Adam. And in fact, if you think about it, if you take just any LLM, point it at the SQL database, it wouldn't tell you the probabilities. It wouldn't tell you how it's reasoning and stuff like that. So this is a fine-tuning of the combination.
And Ankaj is subtly reminding us by highlighting it in the text that this also generates synthetic data, which we didn't mention.
To support, right. To support the whatever, yeah.
We have lots of LLMs out there that are generating synthetic data for this sort of thing. So
okay, let's ask people.
I can land on important for sure. I just couldn't quite grasp the impact of this from the article itself.
Paul, what do you think? You've been in software for decades.
Yeah, no, I think the trend is really important here. I think this particular article is either optional or important here. On the footnote side, at this conference, VB Transform 2024, that Svioka and I were at yesterday, I met 2 startups that are solely helping companies get more value out of spreadsheets, and both of them were bullish. I don't know how good the products are, but both of them are really bullish here. I mean, I think, Adam, the thing that's important, I think, for the AI leader is to understand that this trend of getting value out of spreadsheet is such a pervasive opportunity area to get some of the skeptics in supply chain and finance using this. But this particular article, you need to pull out the chalk, David. I'm on optional, but I don't.
I actually am reading something on the screen right there that would probably tip me into important. So it's giving the example where it says it's not just that it can generate synthetic data, but it can do it from within the database. So in situations where you have like public health records or information you wouldn't want to share outside of the database for privacy reasons, it can generate synthetic data within the database, which is probably going to be an important point for a lot of information.
All right, I've got the chalk and it's drawing an eye.
Good.
Important.
Hey, David, before you go to the next one, Lucinda Lindy mentions on our chat to try the Waymo app, and I've just downloaded it, and I aim to take a ride today in it, and I'll report back and hopefully a video post on it.
All right, fantastic. And thank you, Lucinda, for joining us as you often do. We're happy to have you. All right, what do we have next?
Okay, the next one comes from Meta. Meta AI has developed a compact language model for mobile devices.
Yes, we're seeing a lot of these emerge right now. Chris, what do you think?
I think it's great that Meta keeps pushing their open source technologies as far as they can, and getting it onto a device I think is excellent. The numbers look great for what they're putting out. Jan LeCun is definitely one of my favorite people to follow on social media because like he's pretty bombastic sometimes, but also brings the goods. I would say this is somewhat optional. I haven't seen really a lot of people adopt and start running large language models on devices in any important manner yet. But I think it's fascinating that they're really pushing the envelope, and their new way of building this large language model for smartphones in their research and in their performance. I can't really quantify by their number because they're saying like 4 to 5 percentage points higher, but it looks significantly better than what's available from everyone else. So if you're in that realm, definitely check it out.
Yeah, and this is the size is 1 billion parameters. Contrast that to ChatGPT and the like are trillion or more. This isn't available yet in any form except for you can get the code, but there's you can't use it. So that put me on the optional camp because there are mobile and smaller models that you can use at this point. But Luda, what do you think?
Yeah, I think optional. However, for developers, like in this chat on X, right? He summarizes the new things they've done to enable that model, right? And they are in the core of the mechanism of how LLM works, right? So that's important, and that's why they're getting these results. And what the reason they're opening for research is to even push on that some more to get it better. So this is a great trend, and they're certainly not just doing it like word lip service, right? They are really pushing it, so that's great, but optional at the moment.
Yeah, well, they, what's going to go into their Ray-Ban glasses? Something like this, right?
Yeah.
Once you can get it on device. All right, so, but it sounds like we're optional. Anybody feeling differently? All right, we'll go optional for now, but note the trend as we have been doing. And we have one more.
Yes. So the last one comes from OpenAI and Ariana Huffington. They both are working on a AI health coach.
All right, Paul, thoughts?
I think I'm on mute.
No, you're here.
No, yeah. I mean, I put originally. So where's Adam? Adam bouncing all around like a ping pong today. Originally, I had this another optional thing, just another Venny Barney release here. And I went to Porton here. I'm going to put it at Porton just from the trend. I mean, when Vinod Khosla said last year at the MIT conference that he thinks that 20% of all the initial doctor's visits in 3 years are going to be AI driven, I thought he was nuts. And I'm now coming around to that position. And I think this is an important step towards what can basic diagnostics do for individuals' behavior, both on health and coaching and everything else. So I think the trend is really important here. This particular article is optional. I'm now arguing it's Barney. It's two companies saying they're going to do great stuff. But important trend, optional announcement.
All right, what'd you think, Chris?
Same. I think it's great players whenever you have Sam Altman come and say, I'm working with you, as opposed to just saying I'm working with OpenAI. That's a big deal. Ariana Huffington, obviously very successful entrepreneur. So it's exciting to see what they're building. It doesn't exist yet, but I'm with Paul. The trend is coming that healthcare is going to be driven with AI on those first touch points, but this is an optional article.
Optional for me as well.
Optional for you. And I see Adam nodding. Okay, we started off with a bang. We ended with a whimper. What did we do here, Ankaj, overall?
Coming away, David. Yes.
All right, we've got essential on the contract management tool with GenAI. We've got important, just take a look at that patent information. It's a couple of bullet points, and it's just an interesting read and take on what's going on in the research realm. SQL, we had Gen SQL. We had a little bit of a debate on this one, but we landed on important. Everything else is optional. Any announcements today, Paul?
No, I think I'm still getting used to Google Meet tabs. No announcement today, other than the one thing I meant to tie back to the contract stuff. We talked in the Learning Lab about a couple companies that have been asking us, how do I get value and extract value out of a 100 to 300 page PDFs that might be for $50 million construction projects that have in there scanned in images, numbers and docs or tables. And we'll continue to look for solutions for that. And if people have them, please contact me or send us an email, because it's a really important high ROI area. The company that we were talking with, they actually had Databricks in just last week. And at least the Databricks team said, this is too hard a problem. We don't have any solutions for it. And they gave up on it. While I was in the meeting, I just took a picture of a sample one and stuck it in OpenAI, and it actually correctly put it into an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm like, this feels like something that should make some progress on it here. Julio, one of our AI analysts, who's a senior data AI data scientist, and I are working on just pretty simple RFI, and we found 4 or 5 public documents that are big each. We're going to come up with 4 or 5 common use cases and start sending that around. But people out there who are listening, who are familiar with solutions, not ideas, solutions that are actually working now, let me know, because thousands of companies have this problem.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Chris, where can we find you roaming around in the world?
Well, on Facebook, obviously ChatGPT for Business and Life. Join us over there. I'm tuning in on Mondays when I can to everything Paul's doing with the workshops, GAI Insights. Primary.hosting is our site. Big news for our tribe. We just launched our pickawashani.gov. I shouldn't say launched. We're getting it approved. So next week, I believe it'll be totally live. So we got that. Some really cool things are in our pipeline. I definitely want to thank MIT, Doug Williams, his Orbit program through the Martin Trust School of Entrepreneurship has allowed us to co-pilot Orbit, and people in the Midwest are really loving that. It's just been really cool. The other thing that we're doing is we have a really good relationship with Anthropic, and they gave us a $25,000 sort of grant for 100 companies to get them started on the AI movement with some API credits. So look forward to running some hackathons soon.
Chris, you might just take, I know we, as a guest ready, take 2 minutes to explain what Doug Williams' program is at Orbit. I know it's very unique over there in the Martin Trust Center, and what benefit is your community seeing from his Orbit tool?
So they're great ways to build things on frameworks. And at MIT, there's 2 books. One's called Startup Tactics. The other's called Disciplined Entrepreneurship. Disciplined Entrepreneurship, I think it's in its 10th printing. It would be like a gamified workbook approach to like sort of lean, agile startup design and management, especially if you're in that entrepreneurial startup tech space. This book has been digitized into AI. So instead of it being 24 chapters, it's now 24 AI games. So what you can do, you can add your prompt, which is about your business. And it can be a pretty complex prompt, a simple prompt. You can build one in ChatGPT, maybe from your memory, and bring it into Orbit. And when you do that, it will go through all 24 steps. And what I've seen in accelerators that would take 10 weeks or 3 months or whatever it may be to go through an accelerator, you can get done in an hour now. And through the just charitable work that Doug is able to do to push this out into the world, he gave us access, and anybody that wanted to utilize it gets to use it for free. So it's really the first time hands-on outside of maybe ChatGPT or a Claude that anyone's ever used in an actual AI out of the box. And the work it does is very significant. The matrices are really well built, and I think it's getting better all the time. There's also a community element built in and an event calendar system, and then just resources out of the MIT ecosystem that can help people get matched with maybe solutions. Maybe they have great ideas, but they don't know how to execute. So it's a really cool ecosystem. There's only about 5,000 people in the system right now, and 4,000 plus are from MIT. So we're really fortunate to have that.
Yeah, Chris, he told me, I think just in the last 6 months or a year, they finally opened up outside the MIT community, which has been the biggest request from IT alums. But if you could think of it, I'd love to get a report a couple months down the road here. What I find so interesting in that is that example to me is AI being a thought partner to your team. So
Yes.
it's a framework. It's what you would do for 3 to 4 hour workshop if you brought a consultant in who knew this framework, and you do it on a whiteboard. And now you've got the robots doing it for you at speed to then have the team in the loop, not just a human in the loop, the team in the loop. And it's really promising, I think.
It's phenomenal. I could see utilizing this and then using that to train a GPT, like a custom GPT or some type of chatbot about your business. And then it can become your strategist and your marketing and like all different types of things. It's that first sort of design for agents. And it creates about 100-page report through both startup tactics and disciplined entrepreneurship. So when you talk about like developing really strong prompts or building agents, I think it could really be the core building of agents for your organization, especially in that startup space.
So Chris, just to keep riffing on that one more second. So go for that. And Adam, let's go out 2 years. Once I have something like that for a company like P&G that's really starting to own it, now I have an AI that's trained on the P&G systems, the knowledge, and everything else. So anybody of their 50,000 employees has an idea in a program here. Let's at least go ask the P&G AI who already knows us. So instead of just doing it at an individual level, we're going to have it at the company level.
Right.
It's really powerful.
Well, and Paul, what I also see is that next step where you start having the reinforcement learning and the human in the loop, providing the feedback and continuing to refine the model. And it's just going to get to know the business better and better, right?
Imagine the whole company. We're P&G. Let's all 70,000 employees take 1 hour here, and here's a bunch of questions a robot asking. Refine it, and they're specific to your area here. Hey, which of these two more represent what you're trying to do in finance or marketing? Which of these two are better products here? It's breathtaking when you start thinking about that capability and then the cost and the ROI for that in a year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally agree. And the next step will be AI workflows right off of it that you can start tying in and building out. There's a lot of tools out there that are coming out that are very sophisticated that can enable you to tie prompts and systems and sort of build like these objective agents or intentional agents in a way that if you can build this foundational base first, sky's the limit on what you can do with AI adoption.
And the last thing, just keep working on this, Chris, is because to me, what I want to get to is where you have a Q&A. And on the answer, you've got some kind of confidence meter here. And I want the robots to say, how much confidence do I have in this meter, this answer? I don't know if I have enough confidence. It's coming a lot in here. Oh, who are the 4 experts here? Here's the 4 human experts. Go out and ask them. I want you to proactively improve the questions that are coming in. So as the questions come in from the employees here, which ones are we giving answers that whatever this conference metric to be here, and when it's low, help me find the experts, the human experts, and go out and proactively do that. I mean, you could see that trivially easy. You could gamify it. You could have a leaderboard and who's training, or you can get promoted better here. You can talk about areas that have it. I mean, you can have competition among finance departments. You can do it by product line. You can do customer service answers here. It's really a way to get the knowledge systems, which people talk about was so the rage 20 years ago, actually into living, breathing, proactively improving system.
Totally agree. I think that's definitely the next step for anyone that wants to adopt it. I think the startups are in the best position to do this now because they have the least amount of resistance and bureaucracy. I think the companies that have moratoriums on AI right now are missing it. If they can start utilizing AI in a very safe, responsible way, maybe like in a hackathon for their organization, these are perfect ways to start. But if you can build your AI that starts asking you questions instead of giving you big walls of text every time, that's a whole different interaction with AI, this intentional design for your organization. And that will be the future. I think you're right on with that, Paul.
Yeah. David, I'm sorry, you must too much coffee here, 4 a.m. in San Francisco. One last footnote. John,
I'm struggling to put a thought together when it's 8 o'clock here and you're just, burning.
Yeah.
I'm still in yesterday's time. Maybe that's an issue. Last footnote for the team. And so John and Fielk and I and a few others had a dinner with probably shouldn't name the company, but they were Fortune 20. They have 195,000 employees. They have 100 GenAI projects. They were the 5th company in the world to have a contract with OpenAI and Azure. So they've been very aggressive on this. The thing that we were interested in, it goes exactly what we were talking about earlier, this whole concept, and we were calling own your own intelligence, but it's more of this emotional concept of how much do you own and outsource. It was really interesting to listen to his conversation about how he knows some of his data is so damn important. There's no way they're in the insurance industry. There's no way they're going to let it go over to the big models here. And then second is he knows already from what they're doing on agents how powerful, Adam, that knowledge is. And am I starting to build an agent around a particular process? And one of the particular processes they're already really cracking a code on is how well you convert the audio of a voice, audio of a doctor and a patient into value, and some of this into value from that. So the first thing he said, boy, we first and foremost got to learn we have to keep the source documents, not the AVI, because every time you normalize data, you lose some of the signal here. He said, but that stuff's really, really important here. And the optionality on the future value of that is so high. We're not comfortable. We're ever going to be comfortable sharing that data and the agents we put on top of that with anybody, because we're already seeing, 10 and 15x performance improvements on that. So he goes, I don't know what own your own intelligence is, but I want that. This idea, I want control. I want data and process that's more in control. Because the thing he said, because I'm worried about not the contract, I'm worried about in the 2% chance an AGI at Microsoft Azure who decides, screw it, Adam, I'm going to still break the contract and use every single log file I can because I have the data here. That's going to prove my model. And the risk reward I've done in some lawsuit is so minimal here that the AGI is going to go there. And if the AGI is truly angelic or someone, angelic, and someone, not angelic, angelic, and someone can and they have the data, why isn't that a risk consideration, even at 2% chance in the next 5 or 10 years? So I thought that was really, we are in a different world. We are really, really in a different world here.
All right. Very interesting discussion, guys. And really good to see you, Chris. We hope you'll come back soon.
Certainly. Thanks for having me. See you guys soon.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks.